I arrested my former FTO, who had since left for another agency, for domestic assault. He moonlighted as a bouncer at an adjacent town's dive bar. Most agencies have stringent policies in place against this now, but not back then. Long story short, he got drunk after the club shut down, drove home, then proceeded to beat the crap out of a vexed wife. I got there and he immediately tried to downplay it. EMS had to transport her to the local hospital where she was treated for a fractured orbital and etc. Gave him the "you shouldn't have put me in this position" speech and took his butt to jail. Wife later attempted to drop the charges, only to be disappointed by the DA. Story 33. There was a case in the Philippines where a cop shot an older lady and an adult man together, point blank. The old lady was that man's grandmother hugging him on the scene, because the adult man and the cop were arguing and it was getting heated. The cop's daughter was also at the scene. After the heated argument, the cop shot both the old lady and the adult man. This all happened in front of that cop's daughter, who, by the way, wasn't even a teenager. Story 34. Not me, but my dad. He was a patrol officer for 17 years till he was harassed by members of the good old boy system to the point of leaving. He was approached by a woman who said she was pulled over for a DUI. The cop let her go if she slept with him. This guy took advantage of over 15 women. I bet a lot more, but they didn't come forward. After my father turned him in, the higher-ups tried to cover it up, but he brought it to the DA who actually did something. The guy was tried a few counties over and was only put on 1 year probation. My father was shunned for turning in a brother, and a local PD is still full of abusive jerks. 1 year probation for that is absolutely a joke. Huge props to your dad, OP. In my opinion, he absolutely did the right thing and shouldn't have been punished like that. Story 35. When my cousin was hired on at the sheriff's office, he was assigned a mentor to help him get up to speed on the job. The mentor was a well-respected sergeant. About a month or two into his training, the sheriff had my cousin come into his office to give him a new assignment. The assignment was to investigate his mentor without his mentor knowing he was doing so. The instructions the sheriff gave him were kind of vague on purpose. Since he was still new at the job, my cousin didn't think anything of it, thinking it was just a training exercise. After about 2 months of investigating and doing what he thought he was supposed to do, the sheriff called him in for an update. He asked what he'd learned. My cousin thought this was a test to see how he was doing on the job, so he presented the sheriff with what he'd learned. The sheriff's reaction wasn't what my cousin was expecting. The sheriff was both disappointed and pleased. With the sheriff reacting the way he did, my cousin thought he'd screwed up and did something wrong. It was in this meeting that the sheriff informed my cousin that what he'd been doing was a legitimate investigation, and